Hello! Can I just take a moment to say thank you to everyone that watched the first episode. I was totally blown away by how popular it became so quickly, and a special thank you to all the people that subscribed too. You managed to get me over the 100 subscriber line, and I was able to claim my custom URL from YouTube. I left off the last episode having cut the parts for the sides. Having never built a pinball table before, I decided, after quite a lot of procrastination, to just throw myself at it and see what worked. I expected to have to change things later down the line, and as you will see later on, this is exactly what happened. The part I'm working on here is the back door of the table section. I'm adding a couple of 30mm strips to each side. These will give me something to attach a door frame to, and as an added bonus, give me a start point that is easy to fix to the two sides. Once I have these shaved down to the exact right length, I'll be able to use the ends to line up the top and bottom boards. It's really important to leave a very small amount of edge hanging over where the two boards meet. Once it's all put together, it's really easy to go around and sand off the hanging over part. If you don't do this, you will most likely at some point leave it a little short, which will mean having to use filler to correct it. The back door frame strips I've just glued in place. I haven't fixed them as well as I would like, as I'm not convinced they will be staying permanently. Breaking them off will probably only damage the end grain in the MDF, leaving the side panel surface intact. Probably. Anyway, this next thing is the top of the bottom section of the table. The back box will be attached to this. Here I'm using some batten to get a better fixing. Now it's time to prepare the two side panels for the base panel. A long strip of batten carefully fixed to a line is glued and brad nailed in place. As I go, I'm holding a piece of 18mm MDF, the same thickness as the base, to help keep the batten in the right place. Now that the battens are in place, I can begin to attach the connecting panels, starting with the smaller top panel. Pose for the thumbnail, you idiot. Bottles in the way. Now you find out how well you made your cuts. If the edges aren't quite square, this will lean. As I try to put this clamp on, I find it's working to pull the board up and away from the side panel. I need downward pressure as well as sideways. The first nail is always the tester. This nail gun has a depth setting which is simple to adjust. Nope, that's enough nails. Honestly, it's like watching a Ryobi advert. Are you listening, Ryobi? So my edge can't be perfectly square. It's close, but I'm using a framing square clamped in place to hold the parts in place while the glue dries. I need this to stay in place while I put pressure on the joints. A couple of boards wedged against the wall will hold it. And now I notice I hadn't lined the side and the base panels up properly. So out it comes. It's not quite square, but after a bit of thought I settle on getting the other side attached, as that will pull everything together. Gorilla wood glue dries pretty fast. If this was an arcade cabinet, I would use something with a longer working time like normal PVA on this side, but this is a simple build and I only have 2 boards to connect. To pull everything into square, I clamped this board in place while the glue dried. Next is the front panel. I don't know how I'll be attaching the legs to the cabinet yet, so for now I'm simply gluing this to the ends of the side and base panels. Once I work out how I'll be attaching the legs, I'll come back and reinforce this joint with battens. You need to be careful with the first nail, as the pressure from pushing the gun down on the wood can cause the board to slide on the glue. A little reminder there, power tools are all dangerous. As I pressed down, the whole cabinet rocked and that nail has burst through the side. Luckily, I always keep away from the danger side of the target area. Never put your hands back there or lean your leg against it. Now I need to work out how to mount the Playfield monitor inside. I've left space around it intentionally. I could have built it to be just the size of this monitor, but this isn't a new screen. If it does break in the future, I want to be able to put a different make or model screen inside the cab without rebuilding it. I did decase this screen, but it isn't suitable to use that way. The Visa mounts and everything else that's sturdy enough to be mounted to is attached to the black plastic casing. It means a bit more work to use it with its case on. Another requirement I have is to be able to remove the screen easily. In the end, I intend to have the lockdown bar removable. This will hold the covering glass in place. Once you remove the lockdown bar and the glass, I want to be able to remove the screen so I can work inside the cabinet. It's not possible to reach everything from the back door, so here I'm making a board to fix to the back of the screen that I can then mount inside the cabinet. I have to cut a section out of this board to allow access to the sockets in the screen. I can't be bothered to get the jigsaw out, so I decided to use magic instead. Ta-da! These battens will be what the screen rests on, or they would be. Later on I'll ditch these and do it a little differently. I've had this oak sitting around waiting to be made into a piece of furniture for my wife for ages. While she waits for her table, I'll put some of it to more important use as a lockdown bar. I've had some comments about the lockdown bar being made out of wood. For anyone that thinks it's a terrible idea, bear in mind that I would much rather my hands be resting on a smooth, oiled and waxed piece of wood than metal. Metal is cold and hard and my hands are old and soft. I would very much like an authentic pinball machine, and a metal lockdown bar would be part of that. But it just isn't possible for me to get one made within my budget. Something else to think about is that early pinball machines were all made of wood. Later I'll do something about these sharp corners. I realised that once I fixed some aluminium U-channel to hold the glass, which will cover the playfield, I wouldn't be able to remove the monitor. So I need to find a way to make that happen. Gus has come to pay me a visit. He's a very old boy of 18 human years and he's had a tough life. He's owned us for the last 10 years and his life is far from tough now. I realise that I will need to be able to access the screws that will hold the wooden lockdown bar in place in order to remove it. So I'm cutting a hole in the front door, which I will cover with a fake door, which I'll 3D print later on. While I'm attacking this panel, I thought I might as well make the holes for the front buttons. I'm still not decided on whether to have 3 or 4 here, so I'm leaving room for a 4th if I need it later. Well, I have the drill out, so I might as well make some holes for the flipper buttons. Now I'm back to working on the monitor mount. This had me scratching my head for a while, hence I went off to do other stuff like playing with the cat. But I did come up with a different way to mount it that will keep it removable and still be solidly mounted. Whoops! Support the back. I can just stick some glue in that and it will clamp together when I screw it in place in a moment. These new mounts are lower. A new board will sit on top of these and the board on the back of the monitor will fix to that new board. Honestly, I'm like a butterfly. Okay, now I decide I need a way to have the lockdown bar removable. So first I need something for it to be fixed to. I'm just gluing this at the ends for now. Later on I'll come back and add blocks underneath it to give it extra strength. I'm making a mark for the holes I will need to drill in the oak. This is a threaded insert. I salvaged some of these from an old shelving unit. The closest drill I have is slightly too small. The holes are too tight. Oak is pretty hard, so I loosen them up with a wiggle with the drill. This insert has bottomed out. I need to make the hole slightly deeper. I'm using some hex-headed bolts and I'll 3D print some thumb screw heads for later. Doing a lot of 3D printing later. Still need to sort those sharp corners. Right, back to the monitor mount. This is the new board. Ignore the label that says top. It was cut as the top of the back box. I'll make a new one of those later. Again, I need access for the cables. The 4 divots that you can see here match up with the screws that go into the visor mounts on the board that is attached to the monitor. These help keep things in line. It's a little confusing, I know, but it does work. Okay, now this board is the one that goes on the back of the monitor. It was the width of the cabinet, but I need it to be shorter. To attach the 2 boards together, I'm using T-nuts. These need to be flush, so I'm using a Forstner bit first to make a recess. Here's one of my classic mistakes. I need to mark the holes through to the board below. Unfortunately, this top board is the wrong way up. I realise my mistake. The T-nuts need to be against the monitor. I flip it over and find that the holes are slightly off. Fortunately, it doesn't matter too much. The divots will pull the monitor into the correct position. I just need to make the holes I've just drilled in the bottom board, the one confusingly labelled top, a little larger. The screws are too long. I might change these for hex head too, but I don't have any here right now. I'll pick some up next time I go shopping. Having decided exactly where the monitor is going, I can now put some blocks in place to keep it there. Remember those sharp corners? The ends of the oak scorched when I cut them with the miter saw. The top surface is rough from the sawmill. I want this to be super smooth.
Right tool for the job.
Like he said, the right tool for the job. A hand plane is probably a better tool for this job, but I don't trust myself to get a proper finish with that particular tool, so I'm going with a random orbital sander. This episode has been very woodwork heavy, but in the next part I will start to put the insides in. Thank you so much for watching. All of the kind comments I've been receiving have really motivated me to keep going. I don't do this for any other reason than I love to share what I'm working on, and with lockdown doing that has become so much harder. So please keep the comments coming. I love reading them, and don't forget to subscribe so you can keep up with my progress. Bye!